Hey friends, and welcome back to the Untold story. Tonight, we step into a world where food is more than taste. It's medicine, it's ritual, it's life itself. Imagine a kitchen where every jar of spice is a treasure chest of ancient secrets. Where golden turmeric glows like captured sunlight, cumin carries the heat of forgotten summers, and cardamom whispers stories from 5,000 years ago. This is the living legacy of Ayurveda, India's timeless system of wellness, and its vibrant cuisine, now quietly weaving itself into the heartbeat of the American wellness trend. In cafes from New York to California, golden milk lattes replace morning coffee, herbal blends soothe restless minds, and recipes once guarded by generations of Indian families are being rediscovered, reinvented, and embraced. But behind the colors and aromas lies something deeper, an ancient philosophy about balance, healing, and the connection between body and spirit. Tonight, you and I will wander spice markets without leaving our chairs, meet the healers who see food as sacred medicine, and uncover how this centuries-old wisdom is reshaping modern health in the United States. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the warmth of ginger, cinnamon, and cloves guide you. This is the Untold story, Indian cuisine and Ayurveda in the US wellness trend. The spice that crossed oceans. You hear it before you see it, a faint rustle, like paper bags brushing together, the clink of a brass scoop against glass jars, and the low hum of voices speaking in a language that seems older than the city itself. The air is thick, golden, and warm, as if the sun itself decided to live here. Even with your eyes closed, you can trace the geography of this tiny Indian spice shop in Queens, New York. The turmeric hits first, earthy, bitter, and bright, a smell that clings to your clothes like a friendly shadow. Next comes the cumin, sharp, smoky, almost like dry desert wind turned into scent. Cardamom floats in the background, sweet and perfumed, as if a flower decided to tell a story in secret. This is not just a store, it's a time machine. Every jar, every paper-wrapped bundle, is a map leading back thousands of years to kitchens and markets halfway across the world. The shop owner, Mr. Patel, greets you with the kind of nod that says, "I've seen many strangers come and go, but if you're curious, I'll show you something rare." His hands are stained faintly yellow from handling turmeric every day. He moves with the unhurried grace of someone who knows exactly where every spice belongs, not just on a shelf, but in a story. "This one," he says, lifting a small jar, "came from my cousin's farm in Kerala. Organic black pepper. Strong enough to wake you, but smooth enough for your grandmother's chai." You hold the jar to your nose. It's pepper, yes, but also something more. You can smell the rain that fed it, the green hills that cradled it, the labor of hands that picked each berry. And here is where our story truly begins, not in a laboratory or a trendy cafe, but in fields, villages, and family kitchens where food has always been both nourishment and medicine. Ayurveda, from the Sanskrit words Ayur, life, and Veda, knowledge, is one of the world's oldest holistic healing systems. Over 5,000 years old, it was developed in India long before modern science gave names to vitamins, antioxidants, or probiotics. Yet, somehow, it understood all of them, not in numbers or molecules, but in balance, taste, and energy. In Ayurveda, food is not just fuel. It is medicine for the body, mind, and spirit. And spices? They are not decoration. They are the soul of the meal, tiny, potent alchemists that can cool the fire in your stomach, sharpen your memory, soothe your nerves, or give you the strength to work from sunrise to sunset. Turmeric is not just yellow. It is a healer, fighting inflammation before the word inflammation was ever written in a medical book. Ginger warms the body, drives away colds, and comforts the stomach. Fenugreek seeds, bitter and nutty, are said to purify the blood. And cardamom. Cardamom is the gentle poet of the spice family, calming the mind while awakening the senses. When Indian immigrants brought these traditions to the United States, they carried more than recipes. They carried a philosophy. Yet for decades, it lived quietly in home kitchens, shared only among families and friends. In the 1980s and 1990s, Indian cuisine began appearing in American cities in small restaurants, usually family-run. People came for the butter chicken, the naan, maybe the samosas. Few asked about the deeper meaning of the spice blends. Fewer still knew they were tasting a healing tradition disguised as a dinner menu. Then, something changed. By the 2010s, the American wellness movement, tired of processed foods, fascinated by superfoods, and searching for alternatives to Western medicine, began looking east. Yoga had already softened the ground. introducing Sanskrit words and Indian philosophy into gyms and living rooms across the country. The next wave was inevitable. If yoga could heal the body through movement and breath, perhaps Indian food could heal it through taste and nourishment. And so, the spices began to step out of the shadows. Golden milk ladis, once a home remedy for colds in Indian households, appeared in high-end cafes in New York and Los Angeles. Turmeric shots started selling in juice bars next to wheatgrass and ginger elixirs. Ayurvedic cookbooks, once niche, found space on the shelves of mainstream bookstores. But here's the thing. Much of what was being sold was a simplified, sometimes diluted version of the original traditions. The recipes were trimmed to fit Western palates, the philosophy reduced to a slogan: anti-inflammatory, detoxifying, energizing. The story of balance, of seasons, of eating according to your body's unique constitution, your dosha, was often left out. That's why, if you want to understand the true essence of Ayurveda's influence in America, you have to start in places like Mr. Patel's shop. You have to listen, to taste, to ask questions. Because here, every spice has not just a flavor, but a biography. As you leave the shop, carrying a small paper bag filled with turmeric, cardamom, and ginger, the city feels different. You notice the steam rising from food carts on the corner, the smell of roasted nuts, the neon signs of noodle shops, the sweet perfume of a nearby bakery. The air is a tapestry of scents from every corner of the globe. And now, tucked inside your bag, a piece of India is part of it. You don't know it yet, but this small bag of spices will be the start of a journey, one that will lead you into kitchens, temples, cafes, and health retreats. One that will connect the dots between ancient India and modern America. One that will show you how a philosophy older than Rome itself found new life under the fluorescent lights of Whole Foods and the golden glow of Instagram. And somewhere in the middle of it all, you'll discover a truth as warm and unshakable as the scent of cardamom in the air. The power of Ayurveda was never about the trend. It was always about the connection between what we eat, how we live, and who we are. From ancient scrolls to modern menus, the paper bag in your hand feels warm, not because of the spices inside, but because of the way they carry a weight of history. You walk down the crowded street, and the hum of the city fades for a moment as your mind begins to wander back, far back, to where it all began. Imagine a different world. No skyscrapers, no traffic lights, no neon signs. Instead, there are clay homes baked by the sun, open courtyards where elders sit telling stories, and fields that stretch toward a horizon lined with palm trees and distant hills. Somewhere in this ancient India, a healer sits cross-legged on a mat of woven reeds, a scroll of palm leaves unrolled before them. The words carved into these leaves are not just recipes, they are blueprints for living. This is Ayurveda at its birth, over 5,000 years ago. It wasn't just about curing illness, it was about preventing it. It was about keeping the body, mind, and spirit in harmony with the cycles of nature. The day began with rituals, oil massages to stimulate the skin, herbal rinses to cleanse the mouth, and yoga-like stretches to awaken the muscles. Meals were chosen according to the seasons, the climate, and the unique constitution of each person. In those early days, food and medicine were inseparable. The healer might tell a farmer suffering from fatigue to drink warm milk boiled with turmeric and black pepper. A pregnant mother might be given ghee infused with saffron to strengthen her body and calm her mind. A traveler with stomach troubles could be cured with cumin, fennel, and ginger steeped into a simple tea. These remedies worked not because they were magic, but because they were rooted in a deep observation of life itself. Ayurveda understood that health was not a single moment, but a constant relationship with the earth, with the seasons, with what we put into our bodies. Fast forward to the modern world, and the connection seems almost broken. In many parts of the US, meals come from drive-through windows, wrapped in paper, eaten hurriedly in cars. Food is fuel, and often, fuel of poor quality. Stress is constant, and rest is rare. For decades, this was the norm, until cracks began to show. Rising rates of chronic illness, fatigue, anxiety, a collective sense that something was missing. And that's when the search began. Americans started looking beyond their own borders for answers. They turned to Japan for green tea, to the Mediterranean for olive oil, to South America for quinoa. And when they turned to India, they didn't just find curry or naan, they found an entire philosophy. The doorway often came through yoga studios. In the late 20th century, yoga was reintroduced to the West not just as a form of exercise, but as a spiritual practice. And as people bent and breathed in unison, teachers began speaking of dosas, of prana, of foods that cool or heat the body. Curiosity bloomed. By the early 2000s, Ayurvedic principles started appearing subtly in wellness circles. At first, it was small, a yoga teacher offering turmeric tea after class, or a spa advertising Ayurvedic massages. Then came the big shift. Chefs, both Indian and non-Indian, began weaving these principles into their menus. Restaurants like Ayurveda Cafe in New York started serving dishes tailored to balance different dosas, offering explanations alongside the plates. The American public, already primed by the superfood craze, was intrigued. Here was something that promised not just physical benefits, but a lifestyle, a sense of connection to something ancient, holistic, and exotic. Yet, this is where the story gets complicated. Because as Ayurveda traveled across oceans and through cultures, it changed. Some of these changes were practical. Certain herbs couldn't be found in the US, so substitutes were used. Some changes were about taste. The bitterness of fenugreek or the heat of black mustard seeds was toned down for palates unfamiliar with them. And some changes were commercial. Stripped of their philosophical roots, Ayurvedic ingredients were marketed as trendy, miracle fixes. Take turmeric, for example. In India, it has always been more than a spice. It's a symbol of purity, a part of weddings, a sacred offering in temples, a daily medicine. In the US, it became the golden superfood, praised for its anti-inflammatory powers, poured into lattes, smoothies, and even ice cream. The health benefits are real. Curcumin, its active compound, does reduce inflammation, but without its cultural and ritual context, turmeric risks becoming just another fleeting fad. Still, something deeper was happening beneath the trend. For every Instagram-ready turmeric latte, there were Americans reading Ayurvedic cookbooks, experimenting with khichdi cleansers, or traveling to Kerala for authentic panchakarma treatments. The surface might be glossy, but at the core, the philosophy was slowly taking root. You see this in cities like Los Angeles, where farm-to-table restaurants incorporate seasonal Ayurvedic dishes. You see it in wellness retreats in Arizona, where meditation is paired with Ayurvedic cooking classes. You see it in mainstream grocery stores, where shelves once stocked only with Italian and Mexican spices now carry ashwagandha powder, ghee, and masala blends. And yet, the most authentic encounters still happen quietly, away from the spotlight. In living rooms where Indian grandmothers teach their grandchildren how to temper spices in ghee. In small grocery stores where handwritten signs explain the difference between ajwain and jeera. In the kitchens of Ayurvedic practitioners who still prepare herbal oils according to recipes unchanged for centuries. The journey of Ayurveda in America is like the journey of a seed carried by the wind. It lands in new soil, adapts, sometimes loses part of itself, sometimes grows in unexpected ways. But no matter how far it travels, it carries within it the memory of where it came from. You think of Mr. Patel's shop again. How even in the middle of New York's chaos, the moment you stepped inside, the air changed. The noise of the city faded, replaced by the quiet authority of tradition. That's the magic of Ayurveda. It doesn't just live in textbooks or temples. It can live in a tiny shop, in a single spice jar, in the way you choose to eat your next meal. And in the coming years, that magic is going to face new challenges and new opportunities, as America's wellness industry grows hungrier for ancient wisdom. But whether Ayurveda remains a trend or becomes a way of life for more people will depend on one thing: whether the story is told completely or just in pieces. Because Ayurveda's true gift isn't just the turmeric or the ghee, the teas or the massages. It's the reminder that health is a relationship, and relationships take time, respect, and care. A taste of balance. Ayurveda enters the American kitchen. The next morning, you find yourself standing in the kitchen of a Brooklyn loft, sunlight spilling through tall windows onto a wide wooden table. The space smells faintly of cardamom and cinnamon, like someone has been baking, but in front of you there are no cookies, only a spread of ingredients that seem to belong in a still life painting. Bowls of red lentils, fresh ginger root, knobby and fragrant. A small brass container filled with golden ghee, its surface glistening under the light. Across the table stands Maya, an Ayurvedic chef who left Mumbai a decade ago and now runs a supper club in New York. She doesn't cook just to feed, she cooks to heal. Americans think balance is about doing more, she says, slicing a cucumber into precise, paper-thin rounds. More vitamins, more supplements, more exercise. But balance in Ayurveda is about doing the right things at the right time, for your body, for your season. She begins to assemble what looks like an ordinary salad: cucumbers, mint, lime juice. But then she adds roasted cumin powder, a pinch of black salt, and a drizzle of warm ghee. In summer, this is cooling, she explains. It calms pitta. She says the word like it's as familiar as calories or protein, but to most Americans, pitta is a foreign term, one of the 3 dosas, or energy types, that Ayurvedic theory uses to explain human constitution. She hands you a plate and you take a bite. It's refreshing but complex, the brightness of lime and mint softened by the richness of ghee, the smoky cumin rounding everything out. This isn't just food for hunger. It feels like food for mood. As you eat, Maya talks about how she started. When she first moved to the US, she worked in a generic health food cafe, serving kale salads and acai bowls. People wanted superfoods, she says with a smile, but they didn't want to understand where those foods came from. Then, in 2015, she decided to do something radical, to cook Ayurvedic meals exactly as she learned them from her grandmother, without diluting them for Western palates. It wasn't easy. Some diners balked at the idea of drinking hot water with lemon instead of iced green juice. Others didn't understand why lunch was served at 11:30 a.m. in summer but closer to 2 p.m. in winter. They didn't know Ayurveda sees digestion like a fire, she says. You feed it when it's strongest, not when your calendar says it's lunchtime. But over time, something shifted. People started coming back, not because they suddenly understood dosas, but because they noticed they slept better. Their skin cleared. Their bloating went away. They felt lighter. That's when Maya realized Ayurveda could work here, but only if it was lived, not marketed. This is a truth you start seeing everywhere once you know to look for it. In Los Angeles, a yoga teacher named Daniel runs a community kitchen where students help prepare khichdi, a simple dish of mung beans, rice, and spices, after class. He tells them it's a reset meal, easy to digest, giving the gut a chance to rest. In Chicago, a small cafe offers seasonal bowls that change every month according to Ayurvedic principles, so you'll find warming root vegetables in January and cooling coconut chutneys in July. And it's not just small businesses. Even mainstream grocery stores have begun to carry Ayurvedic staples. Walk into a Whole Foods in California, and you might see jars of organic ghee next to olive oil, or boxes of chai masala blends sitting alongside matcha. This quiet shift in the shelves is a sign. Ayurveda is no longer a mysterious foreign import. It's starting to feel like part of the everyday vocabulary of American wellness. Still, there is a danger in this normalization, the same danger that has faced yoga, meditation, and other ancient practices when they entered Western culture. In the rush to make them accessible, they can lose their soul. You see an example of this in a trendy cafe in downtown San Francisco, where a turmeric latte costs $9. It's beautifully presented, foam art in the shape of a lotus, served in a matte ceramic cup, but the barista doesn't know why turmeric should be paired with black pepper, or that in India, the drink is called haldi doodh and is usually made at home for colds or sore muscles. It's beautiful, yes, but it's floating, unanchored from its roots. For Maya, this is exactly why storytelling matters. She believes every dish should come with its history, just as every yoga pose has a Sanskrit name and a story. Without the story, she says, it's just decoration. She proves her point as she begins preparing the main dish for tonight's supper, a fragrant dal made from 2 lentils, simmered slowly with ginger, turmeric, coriander, and a single bay leaf. The recipe is simple, but the care is extraordinary. She toasts each spice in ghee until it blooms, releasing aroma, flavor, and medicinal qualities, before adding it to the pot. We call this tadka, she says. In Ayurveda, spices are not just flavor. They are the intelligence of the food. By the time the dal is ready, the loft smells like a memory you can't quite place. It's comforting in a way that feels personal, even if you've never been to India. And maybe that's the secret. Ayurveda works not because it's exotic, but because it recognizes something universal. That food is more than fuel. As the guests arrive for the supper club, Maya sets the table with small brass bowls and pours warm water into glasses. The first course is the cucumber salad you tasted earlier. The main is the dal, served with basmati rice and sautéed greens. Dessert is a spiced rice pudding with cardamom and saffron, sweetened with jaggery instead of refined sugar. People eat slowly. Conversations turn to digestion, sleep patterns, and why dessert feels satisfying even though it's less sweet than usual. Some guests take notes, others simply savor the moment. Maya watches them with the quiet satisfaction of someone who knows she's planting seeds that might sprout into habits, and from habits into lifestyle. Later, as you help her clear the table, she shares a thought that stays with you. Ayurveda isn't about eating Indian food. It's about eating the right food for you, in the right way, at the right time. If America can understand that, it won't just be another trend. It will be a change in how people live. And you begin to wonder, maybe that change is already happening, one meal at a time. Healing rooms, where Ayurveda meets the American wellness industry. It is one thing to taste Ayurveda in the kitchen, where spices simmer slowly and the air smells of turmeric and cardamom. It is another thing entirely to step into a space where Ayurveda is not just cooked, but practiced, where its ancient theories are applied to the body in ways that feel both mysterious and deeply intimate. You find yourself in a quiet corner of Santa Monica, California, standing in front of a building that doesn't look much different from a yoga studio or boutique spa. The sign above the door reads, Ayush Holistic Wellness. Inside, the air is warm and fragrant, carrying the scent of sandalwood incense mixed with sesame oil. Soft sitar music plays somewhere in the background. A woman in a cream-colored kurta greets you with a smile. Her name is Dr. Kavita Sharma, a trained Ayurvedic physician from Kerala who has been practicing in the US for over 15 years. Her voice is calm, her movements unhurried, and when she offers you a seat in her consultation room, it feels like you've entered a different pace of life entirely. The room itself is simple: a desk, a bookshelf lined with worn medical texts in both English and Sanskrit, and a low table with jars of dried herbs, ashwagandha, brahmi, triphala. But there's also a faint sense of theatre here. In one corner stands a polished wooden table with a curved lip around the edges, a droni, used for Ayurvedic oil treatments. Hanging above it is a brass vessel with a narrow spout, the Shirodhara pot, ready to pour a thin, steady stream of warm oil onto the forehead of a reclining patient. Dr. Sharma begins the consultation not by asking what's wrong, but by asking how you live. What time do you wake up? How often do you feel anxious? Do you crave sweet foods in the evening? Do your hands and feet run cold? The questions feel strangely personal, but also strangely logical. She takes your pulse, not just counting beats, but feeling for qualities: fast, slow, heavy, light, irregular. She peers at your tongue, noting its color and coating. Western medicine looks for disease, she says. Ayurveda looks for imbalance before it becomes disease. You nod, realizing this is a different kind of detective work. Here, diagnosis is not about naming a condition, but about mapping the terrain of your body's inner world. Once she has built this map, Dr. Sharma explains your prakriti, your constitutional type, and your vikriti, or current state of imbalance. You learn you have a predominantly Vata constitution, but right now, your pitta is elevated, likely from overwork and too much coffee. She doesn't tell you to quit your job or buy expensive supplements. Instead, she prescribes a series of adjustments: earlier dinners, warm spiced milk before bed, less raw salad, more grounding stews. And then, she suggests a treatment, Abhyanga, a full body massage with warm, herbalized oil, tailored to your dosha. The therapy room is dimly lit, the sound of slow instrumental music wrapping around you like a blanket. Two therapists work in perfect sync, their hands moving with deliberate pressure from head to toe. The oil is warm, almost hot, and smells faintly of basil and camphor. As they work, you begin to feel a deep, heavy relaxation, as if every cell in your body is sighing. The experience is not just physical. It feels like something emotional is being loosened, unwound. Later, as the oil is gently wiped away with warm towels, you feel different, not fixed in the way a pill might fix a headache, but more aligned, as though some invisible axis inside you has been straightened. This is where Ayurveda starts to show its depth in the US wellness scene. It's not just about turmeric lattes or ghee in coffee. It's about these immersive experiences that speak to an American audience hungry for more than surface-level wellness. Across the country, similar spaces are quietly multiplying. In New York City, Prana Urban Healing offers lunchtime Nasya treatments, medicated oil drops for the nose, said to clear the mind and sharpen focus, to busy executives between meetings. In Austin, Texas, a small retreat center hosts weekend workshops where participants receive panchakarma, a multi-day detox involving diet, herbal therapy, and therapeutic sweating. In Seattle, a suburban clinic combines Ayurveda with functional medicine, offering both lab tests and pulse diagnosis under one roof. But the adoption of these therapies in America hasn't been seamless. The biggest challenge is translation, not just of language, but of mindset. Many Americans are used to quick fixes and clear timelines. Take this for 10 days, and you'll feel better. Ayurveda, however, moves at a different speed. It sees healing as a gradual realignment, and that requires patience, something not everyone has. Dr. Sharma has seen patients leave after one session because they didn't feel cured. Others, however, stay, returning year after year, allowing the small adjustments to accumulate into real transformation. One woman came in with chronic migraines. After a year of seasonal dietary changes, herbal tonics, and regular Shirodhara, she hasn't had a single episode in months. Stories like these are slowly shifting perception. For a growing segment of the American population, especially those disillusioned by overprescription and side effects, Ayurveda offers not just an alternative, but a philosophy, the idea that the body is not a machine to be repaired, but a garden to be tended. Yet there is still a question hanging in the air. Can Ayurveda scale without losing its essence? The signs are mixed. On one end of the spectrum, there are luxury resorts in Hawaii offering Ayurvedic-inspired facials with no real therapeutic grounding. On the other, there are rigorous practitioners like Dr. Sharma, holding fast to traditional methods while adapting them to American life. The tension between authenticity and accessibility is not new. Yoga walked this path before, but it feels especially delicate here because Ayurveda is so intertwined with personal interaction, with the practitioner's deep knowledge of the patient. Dr. Sharma addresses this head-on. Ayurveda is not a menu where you pick treatments, she says. It's a relationship. Between you and me, between you and your body, between your body and the world. As you leave the clinic, the smell of sesame oil still faint on your skin, you understand what she means. This is not something that can be packaged in a bottle or a 5-minute YouTube ad. It's something you live with, or not at all. And maybe that's why, even in a country obsessed with speed, Ayurveda has found a foothold. For all its patients, it offers something instant, the feeling, however fleeting, that you are in the right place, at the right time, doing the right thing for your body. The spice alchemy, how Indian flavors are transforming American kitchens. When you step into an American kitchen today, whether in a bustling New York apartment, a quiet suburban home in California, or a trendy loft in Austin, you might notice something that, even a decade ago, would have seemed unusual. A jar of turmeric sits next to the olive oil. Cardamom pods rest in a ceramic bowl, their fragrant sweetness almost overpowering the coffee beans nearby. There's a packet of garam masala tucked between jars of basil pesto and artisan sea salt. These aren't just culinary curiosities anymore, they're becoming staples. The presence of Indian spices in American kitchens is more than a passing food trend. It's a cultural shift, a quiet revolution in taste that's reshaping how Americans cook, eat, and even think about food. The journey of Indian spices into the heart of the American home didn't happen overnight. For years, Indian food in the United States was confined to the occasional restaurant visit, a chicken tikka masala here, a naan bread there, maybe a samosa at a cultural festival. But something changed. Part of it was curiosity. Part of it was the growing recognition of the health benefits tied to Indian ingredients, especially in the context of Ayurveda, the ancient Indian system of wellness. And part of it was simply the irresistible pull of flavor. American palates, once hesitant to embrace the boldness of chili or the earthiness of cumin, are now seeking them out with enthusiasm. In many ways, the transformation began quietly, in the aisles of grocery stores. Chain supermarkets started stocking more ethnic products, but over time, the ethnic aisle began to blur into the mainstream. Turmeric lattes appeared on cafe menus, not as exotic novelties but as regular offerings alongside cappuccinos and chai teas. Chefs on cooking shows began to casually mention fenugreek or mustard seeds as if everyone knew what they were. Food bloggers posted recipes for quinoa pulao or Ayurvedic lentil soup, weaving Indian techniques seamlessly into the broader tapestry of modern healthy eating. This was not just about taste, it was about lifestyle. Ayurveda teaches that food is medicine, and in a health-conscious America, that philosophy found a natural audience. The idea that your spice rack could double as your medicine cabinet appealed deeply to those seeking natural, preventative approaches to wellness. Turmeric for inflammation, cardamom for digestion, cumin for detoxification. These age-old principles found new life in smoothie bowls, roasted vegetable dishes, and fusion pastas. The American kitchen began to merge the vibrancy of Indian cooking with the practicality and speed of Western meal prep, creating a hybrid style that respected both tradition and modern life. It's also a story of migration and cultural exchange. Indian immigrants, settling across the US, brought with them not just recipes, but habits, grinding fresh spices, tempering oil with aromatics, cooking with patience and intention. Friends and neighbors were invited over, shared meals led to shared techniques, and slowly, the rhythm of Indian cooking entered American homes. Over time, What was once their food became our food, embraced and adapted without losing its essence. And in this exchange, something beautiful happened. Indian cuisine didn't just influence American kitchens, it was shaped by them, too. The rise of social media gave this movement a megaphone. Instagram feeds became saturated with golden-hued dishes dusted with turmeric, close-up shots of spice-laden curries, and reels of home cooks tossing cumin into sizzling pans. YouTube channels featuring Ayurvedic cooking in English started attracting millions of viewers, many of whom had never tasted authentic Indian food before. TikTok creators turned spice blending into a visual art form, with slow-motion shots of powders cascading into bowls like colored sand in a mandala. The aesthetic appeal of Indian cooking, the vivid reds, yellows, and greens, the steam rising from freshly baked naan, proved irresistible in a culture that thrives on visual storytelling. But it wasn't all Instagram glamour. Real change was happening behind the scenes, in the way people cooked on an ordinary Tuesday night. Parents introduced their children to mild curries instead of just mac and cheese. Health-conscious professionals meal prepped vegetable khichdi for the week instead of picking up takeout. College students discovered that lentil dal was not only cheap and filling but also deeply satisfying in a way that ramen noodles could never be. These small shifts, multiplied across millions of households, have created a quiet but powerful integration of Indian flavors into America's culinary DNA. Restaurants have played a major role in accelerating this change. While high-end Indian dining, think tasting menus and wine pairings, has gained attention in cities like New York, Chicago, and San Francisco, casual eateries have arguably had the bigger impact. Fast casual spots offering customizable bowls with basmati rice, roasted vegetables, spiced chickpeas, and tangy chutneys have brought Indian flavors into the same arena as burritos and poke bowls. By framing Indian cuisine in a familiar format, they've lowered the barrier for those unfamiliar with it, inviting them to taste without intimidation. And yet, the essence of this culinary shift is not about making Indian food safe for American tastes, it's about making it accessible. Accessibility doesn't mean dilution, it means creating entry points. It's about the neighbor who hands you a jar of homemade mango pickle, the cafe owner who suggests a turmeric ginger shot instead of your usual espresso, the farmer's market vendor who lets you smell a basket of fresh curry leaves for the first time. These moments of connection, small as they may seem, are the threads weaving Indian flavors into the fabric of American life. What's remarkable is how this spice alchemy mirrors the deeper cultural exchange happening between India and the United States. Just as Ayurveda teaches the balance of mind, body, and spirit, the integration of Indian cooking into American kitchens speaks to a balance between tradition and innovation, heritage and adaptation. The Indian approach to food, seasonal, intentional, and rooted in well-being, resonates deeply in an America searching for healthier, more meaningful ways to eat. In embracing Indian spices, Americans are also embracing a way of thinking about food that sees it not just as sustenance, but as a source of healing, connection, and joy. And so, the next time you open a pantry in an American home and see that jar of turmeric beside the olive oil, know that you are witnessing more than just a spice. You are looking at a story of migration, curiosity, adaptation, and shared human taste. A story that, much like the scent of cumin lingering in a warm kitchen, refuses to fade. From spice to science, Ayurveda's growing influence in modern American wellness. In the ever-evolving world of American health and wellness, trends come and go with dizzying speed. One year it's all about kale smoothies, the next it's collagen powders, and the year after that, some newly discovered superfruit takes over Instagram feeds. But in the last decade, something unusual has happened. A trend that is not really a trend at all has begun to rise steadily, quietly, and without the usual flash and burn of wellness fads. That something is Ayurveda. Rooted in India's 5,000-year-old system of holistic health, Ayurveda is not the invention of a marketing department. It is a complete worldview, a science of life that has been passed down for millennia. And somehow, in the crowded marketplace of wellness products and philosophies, it has found fertile ground in the United States. The American fascination with Ayurveda began much like its embrace of Indian cuisine, with curiosity, openness, and a touch of exoticism. At first, it appeared in the form of spa treatments, Ayurvedic massages, oil therapies, and herbal scrubs offered at luxury resorts and wellness retreats. For many, their first encounter with Ayurveda was not in a kitchen or a clinic, but in the dimly lit serenity of a treatment room, as warm sesame oil was poured slowly across the forehead in the practice known as Shirodhara. The experience felt otherworldly, deeply relaxing, profoundly calming, and in a culture perpetually wired with stress, this was an irresistible promise. From there, interest in Ayurveda began to seep into other corners of American life. Yoga studios, already steeped in Indian tradition, became natural gateways. Instructors would mention the concept of dosas, the three body-mind types, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, during classes, sparking curiosity among students. Soon, people were taking online quizzes to discover their dosha and learning that their recurring digestive issues, sleepless nights, or bursts of irritability might be connected to an imbalance described thousands of years ago in Sanskrit texts. What made Ayurveda so appealing in America was its combination of ancient wisdom and practical application. It wasn't just a philosophy, it offered concrete, daily actions for better health. Instead of prescribing the same diet to everyone, Ayurveda emphasized personalization, tailoring food, lifestyle, and even exercise to one's unique constitution. This felt revolutionary in a culture where one-size-fits-all solutions often fail. For the overworked Pitta type, Ayurveda might recommend cooling foods like cucumber and coconut water, as well as mindful relaxation practices. For the restless Vata, it might emphasize grounding, warm meals, and regular routines. This customization resonated deeply with Americans increasingly frustrated with generic health advice. At the same time, the growing scientific interest in herbal medicine, nutrition, and mind-body connection gave Ayurveda a kind of unexpected credibility. Researchers began to study turmeric, ashwagandha, triphala, and other Ayurvedic herbs, not as mystical substances, but as legitimate bioactive compounds with measurable effects. Peer-reviewed studies confirmed what Indian households had known for centuries. Turmeric has anti-inflammatory properties, ashwagandha can help reduce stress and anxiety, triphala supports digestive health. Each study, published in a Western journal, further bridged the gap between tradition and modern science, making Ayurveda more palatable to an evidence-driven American audience. The integration of Ayurveda into the US wellness industry also had a lot to do with timing. By the late 2010s, American culture was shifting away from aggressive, high-intensity approaches to health toward gentler, more sustainable practices. The rise of mindfulness, meditation apps, plant-based diets, and the slow food movement created a receptive environment for Ayurveda's core principles. In Ayurveda, food is not merely fuel, it is medicine, and the act of eating is part of a larger relationship with nature and one's inner balance. This dovetailed perfectly with the growing American desire to slow down, eat consciously, and live with intention. Influencers and wellness entrepreneurs played a huge role in bringing Ayurveda into the mainstream. Many of them discovered Ayurveda during travels to India or through their own health challenges, and their personal transformation stories became powerful testimonials. They began offering Ayurvedic cooking classes, selling dosha-friendly meal plans, and creating content that translated Sanskrit concepts into plain, accessible English. On YouTube, videos with titles like Ayurveda Morning Routine for Glowing Skin or How to Eat for Your Body Type began to rack up millions of views. On Instagram, beautifully photographed bowls of khichdi, a simple Ayurvedic rice and lentil dish, were tagged with #detox and #healingfood, attracting audiences who might never have heard the word Ayurveda before. But perhaps the most significant change happened in American kitchens, where Ayurveda's principles began to subtly influence everyday cooking. It wasn't just about Indian food anymore, it was about the Ayurvedic way of thinking. People started drinking warm lemon water in the mornings to stimulate digestion, avoiding ice drinks in winter to preserve their inner heat, and adding digestive spices like cumin, coriander, and fennel to soups and salads. The kitchen became a space not just for flavor, but for self-care, each ingredient chosen with an awareness of its effect on the body's balance. Still, Ayurveda's journey in America has not been without challenges. Its depth and complexity can be overwhelming for beginners, and its reliance on ancient Sanskrit terminology sometimes creates a barrier to understanding. There's also the risk of commercialization diluting its essence, reducing it to a few trendy products rather than the holistic lifestyle it truly is. Yet even here, something interesting is happening. The more people dabble in Ayurveda, the more they discover its richness, and the more they seek out authentic sources, books by Indian doctors, consultations with trained practitioners, and traditional cooking methods. In a way, Ayurveda's complexity might be its greatest strength, because it invites a lifetime of learning rather than a quick fix. In modern American wellness, Ayurveda has found its place not as a temporary fashion, but as a quiet undercurrent, one that flows beneath diet trends and workout crazes, offering something timeless and grounding. It has connected two worlds, the ancient and the modern, the East and the West, the kitchen and the clinic. And in doing so, it has transformed not just how Americans eat, but how they think about health, balance, and the simple, profound act of caring for themselves every day. The cultural crossroads, when Ayurveda meets American lifestyles. When Ayurveda began its quiet migration from the Indian subcontinent to the kitchens, yoga studios, and wellness retreats of the United States, it arrived carrying not just recipes and remedies, but a whole worldview. Yet America, with its bustling schedules, fast food drive-thrus, and ever-accelerating pace, was not an easy environment for such an ancient, slow, and deeply intentional system to settle into. The meeting of these two worlds, the steady, cyclical rhythms of Ayurveda and the restless, forward-charging energy of modern America, created a fascinating cultural crossroads. Out of that meeting came both challenges and opportunities, misunderstandings and transformations. For many Americans, their first real introduction to Ayurveda came through yoga. It made sense. Yoga had already been embraced as a mainstream wellness practice, and Ayurveda is its sister science. Yoga instructors would mention the concept of dosas or suggest warm herbal teas for balance, sparking curiosity among students who were already open to holistic practices. Still, there was an immediate cultural difference to reconcile. Ayurveda asks for patience. It works with the body's natural cycles, and its benefits often unfold over weeks or months. In contrast, American health culture tends to reward quick results. Lose 10 pounds in a week. Detox in 3 days. The idea of committing to a daily self-care routine for months, or adjusting one's diet with the seasons, was both intriguing and intimidating for many newcomers. One of Ayurveda's biggest cultural shifts for Americans was its view on food. In the US, food is often categorized as good or bad, healthy or unhealthy, in a way that feels absolute. Kale is a superfood. Sugar is toxic. Carbs are either the enemy or the savior, depending on the year's trend. Ayurveda, however, sees food through a far more nuanced lens. The same food can be healing for one person and harmful for another, depending on their constitution, the season, and even the time of day. Cold smoothies loaded with raw greens might be celebrated in America as the ultimate health drink, but in Ayurveda, they might aggravate vata imbalances, leading to bloating, dryness, or anxiety, especially in cold weather. Conversely, a hearty bowl of spiced lentils, which some Americans might see as too heavy, could be exactly what a person needs to restore grounding and warmth. This more personalized approach to food resonated deeply with Americans who had grown weary of one-size-fits-all diets. It also dovetailed with the growing movement toward intuitive eating, listening to one's body rather than blindly following diet rules. Yet, adopting Ayurveda fully often required letting go of certain deeply ingrained habits, like drinking iced beverages year-round, eating on the go, or skipping meals entirely due to busy schedules. For Ayurveda, eating is a sacred act, ideally done sitting down, in a calm environment, without distractions. That was a radical idea for people used to eating lunch at their desks while checking emails. The cultural exchange wasn't one-sided, though. Just as Americans had to adjust to Ayurveda's pace, Ayurveda itself had to adapt to fit into modern American life. Many Ayurvedic practitioners in the US began offering simplified, starter routines, small, manageable habits like drinking warm lemon water in the morning, incorporating turmeric into daily meals, or practicing abhyanga, self-massage, once a week. These gentle introductions acted like gateways, allowing people to taste the benefits without feeling overwhelmed by the system's depth. Once the benefits became clear, better digestion, deeper sleep, improved mood, many were motivated to explore more advanced Ayurvedic principles. Another interesting layer of this cultural meeting point was the role of science. Americans, especially those new to Eastern traditions, often sought scientific validation before committing to a practice. This led to a wave of research studies exploring Ayurvedic herbs and treatments. Turmeric, ashwagandha, boswellia, and amla became popular in supplement aisles, marketed not just as traditional remedies but as evidence-backed wellness tools. While this scientific interest helped Ayurveda gain credibility, it also risked reducing it to a handful of super supplements, stripping away the holistic context that gives it true power. An Ayurvedic practitioner might say that taking turmeric capsules without addressing diet, sleep, and stress is like watering one plant in a neglected garden. It helps, but it's not the whole picture. Culturally, Ayurveda also offered Americans something they didn't always realize they were missing: a sense of alignment with nature's cycles. In the US, life tends to move in a linear progression, always pushing forward. Seasons may change, but many people's routines stay the same year-round. Ayurveda gently reintroduced the idea that our bodies are part of nature's rhythm, and that shifting our habits with the seasons can be profoundly restorative. In summer, Cooling foods and lighter activity can balance the heat. In winter, warming spices, heavier meals, and earlier bedtimes nourish the body against the cold. These ideas appeal to a growing subset of Americans seeking deeper connection to themselves, to nature, and to something timeless in a rapidly changing world. Of course, Ayurveda's spread in the US has not been without cultural misunderstandings. Some Americans approach it purely as a trend, adopting a few practices for aesthetic reasons, golden milk for Instagram, copper water bottles for the look, without understanding their origins or purposes. Others assume Ayurveda is simply Indian herbalism, missing its philosophical depth. Yet over time, as authentic teachers and practitioners have gained visibility, these misconceptions have begun to fade. People are realizing that Ayurveda is not about exoticism or novelty. It's about cultivating a relationship with one's own body, mind, and environment. The most beautiful aspect of this cultural crossroads is how it has sparked creativity. In kitchens across the US, chefs are experimenting with Ayurveda-inspired menus, blending local ingredients with Indian spices in ways that honor both traditions. In wellness spaces, yoga retreats now incorporate Ayurvedic cooking classes, seasonal cleansing programs, and personalized health consultations. Online, communities share recipes, morning routines, and seasonal tips, making Ayurveda a living, evolving practice rather than a static set of rules. Ultimately, when Ayurveda meets American lifestyles, it doesn't demand a total transformation overnight. Instead, it plants seeds, small habits that grow into deeper awareness. For some, that might start with a single cup of warm herbal tea instead of iced coffee on a cold morning. For others, it might be the decision to eat dinner earlier, to sleep with the sun's rhythm, or to learn which spices bring balance to their unique constitution. And in these small changes lies the quiet magic of Ayurveda. It adapts to meet people where they are, guiding them, step by gentle step, toward balance in a world that often pulls them away from it. The business of Ayurveda: how ancient wisdom became a modern industry in America. When Ayurveda first arrived on American shores, it was carried by word of mouth, small wellness communities, and a few dedicated practitioners who saw its potential to transform lives. Today, it has grown into a multi-million-dollar industry, an industry that stretches from boutique herbal companies to corporate supplement brands, from artisanal spice blends to high-end wellness retreats. This evolution has been both a blessing and a challenge. On one hand, it has brought Ayurveda unprecedented visibility. On the other, it has raised questions about authenticity, commercialization, and the delicate balance between tradition and market demand. In the early days, Ayurvedic products in the US were often imported directly from India, sold in small ethnic grocery stores, or brought back in suitcases by those who traveled to the subcontinent. These products, bags of ashwagandha root, jars of triphala powder, hand-labeled bottles of herbal oils, were not branded with sleek packaging. They were humble, functional, and often accompanied by advice from someone who had grown up with these remedies. But as interest in Ayurveda grew, entrepreneurs saw an opportunity. Soon, turmeric was no longer something you had to hunt down in a specialty shop. It was in your local supermarket, in capsules, teas, lattes, even protein powders. Turmeric, in particular, became Ayurveda's poster child in America. Scientific studies highlighting its anti-inflammatory properties ignited a wave of consumer enthusiasm. Major coffee chains began offering golden milk lattes, wellness influencers posted glowing photos of turmeric spice smoothies, and supplement companies raced to release their own versions of curcumin pills. What was once an everyday kitchen spice in India became a high-value commodity in the West. But in this process, something subtle happened. Turmeric was lifted out of its cultural and culinary context. In Ayurveda, turmeric is rarely consumed in isolation. It's combined with other spices to balance its heating nature, and its effects are understood in relation to the individual's constitution. In the American market, however, turmeric became a superfood, marketed as a magic bullet for inflammation, stripped of its deeper, interconnected philosophy. This pattern repeated with other Ayurvedic herbs. Ashwagandha became the go-to supplement for stress relief. Triphala was sold as a gentle detox. Neem was marketed for skin health. While these uses were not inaccurate, they often reduced the herbs to single functions, ignoring the holistic approach that Ayurveda insists upon. For example, ashwagandha is indeed calming for many, but in some constitutions, it can be too heating or stimulating, something traditional Ayurvedic guidance would always take into account. Without this nuance, some consumers experienced mixed results, leading to skepticism about Ayurveda as a whole. Still, the commercialization of Ayurveda also brought real benefits. It made Ayurvedic products more accessible to a far wider audience, especially those who might never have encountered them otherwise. It also fueled innovation, with American companies blending Ayurvedic principles with local ingredients and contemporary formats. Ayurvedic energy bars, herbal-infused skincare, ready-to-drink adaptogenic teas. These products didn't exist in India, but they carried the essence of Ayurvedic wisdom into modern life in creative ways. The wellness retreat industry became another powerful vehicle for Ayurveda's growth. Luxury resorts in California, Arizona, and Hawaii began offering Ayurvedic rejuvenation programs, complete with dosha assessments, personalized meal plans, and spa treatments inspired by Indian traditions. Some retreats collaborated directly with Ayurvedic doctors from India, ensuring authenticity and depth. Others, unfortunately, diluted the practice into a vague Eastern-inspired spa experience, more focused on exotic ambience than genuine healing. This tension, between depth and surface, has followed Ayurveda through its entire American journey. Ayurvedic cooking also found its niche, especially as more Americans embraced plant-based diets. Cooking classes, YouTube channels, and Instagram chefs began sharing khichdi recipes, spice blends, and seasonal menus tailored to the dosas. This not only helped demystify Ayurvedic food, but also made it practical for home cooks. However, adapting recipes for the American palate sometimes meant toning down spices, skipping ingredients hard to source locally, or blending Ayurveda with other global cuisines. Purists might argue this strays from tradition, but others see it as the natural evolution of a living practice adapting to new lands. From a business perspective, Ayurveda's rise in America mirrors that of yoga 2 decades earlier, starting in small, passionate communities, then exploding into mainstream culture, then facing a reckoning over cultural appropriation and authenticity. The parallels are striking. Just as yoga was transformed into a multi-billion-dollar industry selling everything from leggings to luxury retreats, Ayurveda has become both a health movement and a commercial brand. And just as with yoga, the challenge is to keep the heart of the tradition alive amid the noise of marketing. Some American Ayurvedic entrepreneurs have taken this responsibility seriously. They work with Indian farmers to ensure sustainable sourcing, share educational content alongside their products, and actively promote awareness of Ayurveda's cultural heritage. Others have leaned more heavily into profit-driven models, focusing on trends rather than tradition. The result is a marketplace where consumers must navigate carefully, choosing between companies that honor Ayurveda's integrity and those that simply capitalize on its popularity. One of the most fascinating aspects of Ayurveda's commercial success in America is how it intersects with the broader wellness economy. Americans spend billions annually on health and self-care, and Ayurveda fits neatly into this framework, offering herbal solutions, lifestyle practices, and spiritual depth. But it also challenges some of the underlying assumptions of the wellness market. Ayurveda doesn't promise instant transformation. It calls for long-term commitment. It doesn't just sell products, it asks for lifestyle change. This creates a unique tension. How do you market something slow and holistic in a culture that craves fast and targeted fixes? Some businesses have found clever ways to bridge this gap. Subscription boxes offer monthly Ayurvedic teas, oils, and recipes, making the practice feel fresh and engaging. Apps provide daily Ayurvedic tips, seasonal recipes, and even guided self-care routines. Online consultations with Ayurvedic practitioners make personalized guidance accessible without the need for in-person visits. All of these adaptations keep Ayurveda relevant while respecting its emphasis on individualization and natural rhythms. Yet, as Ayurveda becomes more mainstream, its original purpose must be remembered. It is not just a business opportunity, but a system of knowledge designed to bring human beings into harmony with themselves and their environment. In the rush to package and sell its wisdom, there is a danger of losing the very qualities that make Ayurveda unique: its patience, its deep listening to the body, its respect for the seasons of life. The American marketplace has given Ayurveda new platforms and possibilities, but it is up to practitioners, educators, and mindful consumers to ensure that its essence remains intact. At this intersection of ancient wisdom and modern commerce, Ayurveda continues to evolve. It is no longer a foreign curiosity. It has found a place in American homes, kitchens, and conversations. But like any living tradition, it will be shaped by the values and choices of those who carry it forward. The question is not just how Ayurveda will grow in the US, but how it will grow without losing its soul. Ayurveda in American culture, from niche circles to mainstream mindfulness. When Ayurveda first stepped into the United States, it was a whisper in the background of the wellness world. a mysterious, exotic tradition spoken of in hushed conversations at yoga studios and small spiritual gatherings. Today, it's no longer confined to those small circles. It's in glossy magazines, wellness podcasts, farmers markets, celebrity interviews, and the ever-expanding space of social media. The journey from obscurity to mainstream acceptance has been nothing short of remarkable, and along the way, Ayurveda has not only transformed lives, it has also reshaped the way many Americans think about health, food, and balance. One of the biggest cultural shifts Ayurveda has inspired in the US is the reawakening of the idea that health is not just the absence of disease, but a state of harmony between body, mind, and environment. This concept, so central to Ayurveda, resonates deeply in a country where modern lifestyles often lead to stress, burnout, and chronic health conditions. For many Americans, discovering Ayurveda has been like finding a missing piece of a puzzle, a framework that explains not only what to eat or how to exercise, but why those choices matter in the rhythm of the seasons, the cycles of life, and the uniqueness of each person's constitution. The cultural integration of Ayurveda in America has taken many forms. On the culinary front, it has blended seamlessly with the farm-to-table movement. Farmers markets in cities like Portland, Austin, and San Francisco now feature stalls selling Ayurvedic spice blends, herbal teas, and ghee infused with medicinal herbs. Chefs are experimenting with dosha-friendly menus, pairing locally sourced vegetables with ancient Indian cooking principles. Restaurants offer Ayurvedic tasting menus that guide diners through a seasonal journey of flavors: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent, balanced to nourish both the body and the senses. In the realm of fitness and wellness, Ayurveda has become a companion to yoga, meditation, and other mindful practices. Yoga studios host workshops on Ayurvedic cooking, seasonal cleanses, and self-care routines like Abhyanga, oil massage. Meditation retreats incorporate Ayurvedic meal plans to support deeper relaxation. Even gyms, once dominated by high-intensity workouts and protein shakes, are now offering recovery programs that include Ayurvedic teas, restorative stretches, and guidance on balancing energy. Social media has been one of the most powerful accelerators of Ayurveda's cultural spread. Influencers, wellness coaches, and health bloggers share daily dosha tips, what I eat in a day videos based on Ayurvedic principles, and DIY herbal remedy tutorials. Hashtags like #Ayurveda lifestyle, #dosha balance, and #golden milk have gathered millions of views. This online presence has both democratized and diluted the tradition. It makes Ayurveda accessible to anyone with an internet connection, but it also risks oversimplifying complex concepts into quick, aesthetic posts. The challenge for the digital age is how to maintain depth in a medium built for speed and visuals. Perhaps one of the most surprising places Ayurveda has appeared is in corporate wellness programs. Large tech companies, known for their stressful environments, are introducing Ayurvedic workshops for employees. These programs teach workers about circadian rhythms, stress management through diet, and self-care practices that can be done at home or even at a desk. In an era where burnout is recognized as a genuine workplace epidemic, Ayurveda offers a refreshing counterpoint: the idea that productivity and health are not opposites, but partners. The integration of Ayurveda into American culture has also sparked important conversations about cultural appreciation versus appropriation. While many embrace Ayurveda with respect and gratitude, others are concerned about how its sacred traditions can be commercialized or misrepresented. These discussions are not always comfortable, but they are essential. They encourage consumers and practitioners alike to engage with Ayurveda not as a trend to be consumed, but as a living tradition with roots, values, and cultural significance that deserve acknowledgement. Interestingly, Ayurveda's journey in America has also influenced how some Americans view their own traditional healing practices. Indigenous herbalism, Appalachian folk medicine, and other ancestral health systems are receiving renewed interest, inspired in part by Ayurveda's example. The message is clear: every culture holds wisdom about living in balance, and these systems can coexist, learn from each other, and enrich the modern conversation about wellness. Another dimension of Ayurveda's cultural adoption is its impact on the way Americans think about aging. In a society that often fears and resists the aging process, Ayurveda brings a radically different perspective. Aging is not a disease to be cured, but a natural phase of life that can be navigated with grace, vitality, and purpose. Ayurvedic teachings about longevity, rasayana therapies, seasonal adjustments, mindful routines, are finding eager audiences among older adults seeking alternatives to purely pharmaceutical approaches. There is also a growing recognition that Ayurveda is not just for the privileged few who can afford retreats and organic supplements. Community-based programs in cities like Los Angeles and New York are bringing Ayurvedic education to underserved populations. Local nonprofits host free cooking classes, teach basic herbal remedies, and introduce mindfulness practices rooted in Ayurveda. By making these resources accessible, Ayurveda is shedding its image as an elite wellness trend and returning to its original role, a system meant to serve all people. The cultural integration of Ayurveda in America is still evolving, and with each step, it faces both opportunities and challenges. Its presence in mainstream media, in schools, in corporate settings, and in grassroots community work shows its adaptability. But its long-term future will depend on how well Americans can embrace not just the visible aspects of Ayurveda, the turmeric ladis, the spa treatments, but the invisible ones, the commitment to self-awareness, the respect for nature's cycles, and the understanding that true health is a lifelong journey, not a quick fix. As Ayurveda becomes woven into the fabric of American life, it carries with it a subtle but profound message. It reminds us that health is not something we achieve and then set aside. It is a daily practice, a relationship with ourselves and the world around us. In this way, Ayurveda is not just fitting into American culture, it is helping to reshape it, offering a slower, more thoughtful rhythm in a society that often moves too fast. The future of Ayurveda in America, embracing ancient wisdom for a modern world. As we arrive at the close of this journey through Ayurveda's vibrant life in America, it's worth pausing to consider what lies ahead for this ancient tradition in a rapidly changing world. From its modest beginnings as a curiosity embraced by spiritual seekers to its current status as a cornerstone of the American wellness movement, Ayurveda has traversed a remarkable path. Yet, the story is far from finished. The future of Ayurveda in the United States is a tapestry still being woven, shaped by the hands of practitioners, entrepreneurs, communities, and individuals who carry its wisdom forward. Looking back, the resilience of Ayurveda is striking. It has endured thousands of years, adapting through empires, invasions, and cultural shifts. In America, it faces a new set of challenges: a fast-paced culture, commercial pressures, and the complexities of blending traditional knowledge with modern science. But these challenges also carry promise. The increasing demand for holistic health solutions, a growing awareness of environmental sustainability, and a collective yearning for connection and meaning all create fertile ground for Ayurveda to deepen its roots in American soil. One of the most exciting developments on the horizon is the potential for greater integration between Ayurveda and conventional Western medicine. Already, some medical institutions are exploring how Ayurvedic principles can complement treatments for chronic diseases, mental health, and preventive care. Integrative clinics are emerging where doctors and Ayurvedic practitioners collaborate, combining their expertise to offer personalized care. This cross-pollination could enrich both systems, fostering a more nuanced understanding of health that honors both the body's biochemistry and its energetic rhythms. Education will play a crucial role in Ayurveda's future in America. As demand grows, so too does the need for qualified practitioners who understand Ayurveda's depth, context, and ethical foundations. Accredited training programs are expanding, blending traditional study with modern pedagogy, and incorporating research methodologies that bridge Eastern and Western knowledge. These programs aim to preserve Ayurveda's integrity while preparing practitioners to meet the needs of diverse American populations. Community engagement is another cornerstone of Ayurveda's ongoing evolution. The wellness movement in the US is becoming more inclusive and socially conscious, recognizing that health disparities must be addressed through accessible education and resources. Ayurveda's holistic view, considering mental, physical, environmental, and spiritual health, makes it uniquely suited to contribute to this shift. Grassroots initiatives that bring Ayurvedic knowledge to underserved communities, urban gardens growing medicinal plants, and collaborations with indigenous healers all signal a future where Ayurveda serves not just individuals, but society at large. Technology will also shape Ayurveda's trajectory. Digital platforms are democratizing access to Ayurvedic wisdom, offering apps for dosha assessments, virtual consultations, and guided self-care routines. While digitalization risks oversimplification, it also opens doors to global conversations, cross-cultural learning, and personalized health journeys that honor Ayurveda's principles. The challenge will be to use technology thoughtfully, ensuring it enhances rather than diminishes the depth and intimacy of Ayurvedic practice. Sustainability is a theme woven throughout Ayurveda's past and future. Traditional Ayurveda is deeply connected to the earth. Its herbs, foods, and rituals arise from a respect for nature's cycles. In an era of climate crisis, Ayurveda's emphasis on seasonal living, local sourcing, and mindful consumption offers a blueprint for more sustainable lifestyles. American practitioners and businesses are increasingly prioritizing ethical harvesting, regenerative agriculture, and packaging innovations that reduce waste. This eco-conscious approach resonates with younger generations who see health and environmental stewardship as inseparable. Culturally, Ayurveda invites Americans to reimagine their relationship with time and self-care. In a society that often glorifies business and achievement, Ayurveda's teachings encourage slowing down, honoring natural rhythms, and listening deeply to the body signals. This countercultural message is gaining traction, helping many to cultivate resilience, joy, and balance in the face of modern stresses. The promise of Ayurveda is not just longer life, but a life lived with awareness and vitality. As more Americans embark on their Ayurvedic journeys, questions of authenticity and cultural respect remain vital. Ayurveda's future depends on honoring its roots, learning from its teachers, and approaching it not as a trend but as a sacred lineage of knowledge. This requires humility, ongoing education, and dialogue between cultures, generations, and disciplines. When approached with respect, Ayurveda can be a bridge between worlds, connecting ancient wisdom with contemporary needs. In the quiet moments, when you sip a warm cup of spiced tea, when you pause to notice the shifting seasons, when you listen to your body's subtle messages, you participate in this living tradition. Ayurveda's magic lies not only in herbs or treatments, but in these acts of presence and care. It reminds us that health is an intimate dance with life's rhythms, a daily invitation to nurture ourselves and our communities. Thank you for joining this journey through the unfolding story of Ayurveda in America. May its ancient wisdom inspire you to find balance in your own life, to honor the connections between body, mind, and nature, and to embrace the slow, beautiful rhythm of wellness that Ayurveda offers. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself, and may your path be one of harmony and health. As our journey through the secrets of Ayurveda and Indian cuisine in America draws to a close, remember this is more than just a story, it's an invitation. An invitation to slow down, listen deeply, and honor the timeless wisdom that flows through every meal, every ritual, and every breath. May the ancient rhythms of Ayurveda guide you toward balance, healing, and a deeper connection with yourself and the world around you. Thank you for walking this path with me. Until we meet again in the quiet corners of history and wellness, take gentle care, and may your journey be rich with health and harmony. Good night, friends.